I'm telling you right now, no, Americans, by and large, do not consider veterans, especially combat veterans, to be baby killers in the way that like a handful of select few anti-imperialists do. Okay? They just see it as more of the same. When they think of Blackwater, they don't think, oh my God, she did not want to be... she did not want to say that she was raped, and she also did not want... what do you call it? She probably didn't want to fuck up his chances. As damning as that seems, as like devastating of a reality as that is, I believe it when she says like I agreed with his politics, and I genuinely, it like weighed on me because the fate of the Democratic majority in the Senate hangs on my shoulders. That like, you know, she says she prepared to vote for him.
Graham Platner had told a story about himself that some folks were willing to believe, about a story of growth, a story that comes even, I think, and we were willing to believe it over the troubling signs that Andrew reported, that women had come out and said before. Yeah. This is a new, I think, new piece of information that is serious, that's corroborated, and I think has had the justified reaction to it. I don't expect Graham Platner to last through the week, and I think that him saying, you know, they're kind of like, you know, we built this grassroots base of volunteers, those are the very same people who feel quite lied to right now. Like, you know, those are people he said that there wouldn't be more stuff coming out to. So I think that that's actually a critical, that's actually a critical piece of this, is that not just that the DSCC's changed their mind, or maybe some people who didn't want him to win the race originally don't like him anymore. That volunteer base that was driving that interest is turning on him. And I think that's really going to be the most damning part of this. But, you know, I to the point about kind of outsider candidates, even take Zohran Mamdani in New York. That's someone who had been an assembly member, who had gone through some levels of vetting, who is actually, I think, doing fine now because they had thought about a vision of governance. When you kind of pick folks out of nowhere, you risk something like this. So,
World Cup news update, U.S. being beaten by fake country Belgium. People are mad at you for saying the right things now. I swear to God, people stay mad. How do you address those who rightfully are upset that no push to dropout was being made, with even with the knowledge of his Blackwater history and joyful killing of brown people? I don't know how many different ways that I can say this, and I have talked about this before. My own considerations about his Blackwater mercenary status was something that I openly revealed, openly talked about, but it was not relevant in the grand scheme of things in the eyes of Mainers, right? And I kept repeatedly explaining this over and over again. And unfortunately, people just did not care to understand what I was saying. I'm sorry. Our considerations or our concerns, maybe you were a lot more loud about them than I was, because I would still then package that up with, he's a far better candidate, even with that background, than Susan Collins, who voted for these wars, and also better than Janet Mills, who was, again, pro-Israel and most likely going to lose to Susan Collins. Like you could have been loud and proud about it, but clearly Mainers did not hear your voice. And my skepticism or scrutiny would not change that reality. And that's why we debated the same old issue 1,000 times over. Do you understand? I hope someone clips this for Twitter, because my God, the amount of people asking about this today, it doesn't matter. Those people are not asking this question because this is a serious... He's an insider media guy. People did care, but nobody reported it. No. Graham Platner is not an insider media guy. What are you talking about? They fucking ate his ass up a million ways to Sunday, even before this like credible accusation of rape. I'm telling you right now. No. Americans, by and large, do not consider veterans, especially combat veterans, to be baby killers in the way that like a handful of select few anti-imperialists do. Okay? They just see it as more of the same. When they think of Blackwater, they don't think, oh my God, like he volunteered to join a private defense contractor that had to change his name a million times because they kept doing war crimes. They think, oh, it's the same old shit. You know, he's just a grunt. He's just a vet. He's an American hero. Okay. That's what Americans think. Now, is this the correct assessment? No, it's not. But your assessment is also not correct, with the exception of Blackwater. If you're automatically assuming that every single veteran is irredeemable, every single veteran is an irredeemable monster, then I will debate you on that issue over and over again, which again is where people clip me and then will cry about how I'm, defending Grant Platner. That's usually the conversation. Like on principle, as far as like having a blanket assessment that every single veteran is an irredeemable war criminal monster that murdered children, you can't operate like that. That's not a normal way to exist. And that's not how I have been ever in my life. And I will never be that way. And I will never, ever say things like that. Okay? Also, no one is being honest with his military record. I'm also concerned about how it reflects on his judgment and character, but people are talking like he's a perpetrator of torture at Abu Ghraib when he had a patrol in the area for Blackwater. He did embassy security. We can be honest while being critical. Yes. The more damning side of that was not what he did for Blackwater. The more damning side of that was the fact that he volunteered to go and work for Blackwater after Blackwater had changed his name a million times over. You know what I mean? Most people didn't say most veterans, but come on, dude. You think Bad Empanada doesn't think all veterans? Are you fucking insane? Bad Empanada and his ilk don't even say most veterans. They say all veterans, every single one. Doesn't even matter if they were on like support staff duty. What are you talking about? Let's live in reality, please. Okay? Let's live in fucking reality. That's crazy. The idea that he's a dumbass? Okay, where the fuck do you think most of this shit is coming from? Who do you think is clipping old things? Who do you think is using this moment? Who do you think is using this very moment to do the exact same thing that Epstein does? Okay? Bad Empanada doesn't like Adam Hamawi. Okay? Adam Hamawi risked his life to save the children of Gaza. What the fuck has Bad Empanada ever done in his goddamn life other than chirp? Get the fuck out of here. His own audience and the dumbasses in his community literally think they don't know any better. They think like, they sincerely ask me, how many anti-Zionists have actually signed off on an arms embargo to Israel? I was like, every single person, as a matter of fact. Every single person that I've actually campaigned with have done that. But you wouldn't know that because Bad Empanada doesn't give a shit about the fucking truth. In his world, I hand-selected Grant Platner because I loved that he was in Blackwater. That's it. My assessment on this has always been consistent, okay? My attitude on this is that everyone is a victim of their social conditioning. Everyone is a victim of their material realities to a certain degree. If you grow up in America, hopped up on American exceptionalist fumes, and the attitude overall, no matter how incorrect, is that you join the military to fucking save people's lives, whatever the fuck, okay? Then most people don't have the same assessment as you do, so they get duped into believing that they're actually going to go and find an adventure for themselves. And a lot of people in that process either become bloodthirsty monsters or they are horrified by the actions that they see around them and get the fuck out of the military and become lifelong advocates against American imperialism. Okay? If you don't give people the opportunity to, reconsider their perspective, and you just assume that everyone has to start with the same starting point that you started off as, then it's delusional. You're never going to be able to fucking build a massive enough coalition. How is Hasan more down to earth than Chatters? Because I've lived an actual fucking life. I didn't just like spawn as an 18-year-old content creator. Troy Jackson says, there's no place in our politics for sexual violence, not in our party, not in any party. Grant Platner must withdraw from this race today. This is not what we stand for, not as Democrats, not as Mainers, not as human beings. For too long, women who survive sexual violence have been told to stay quiet, to protect the men who hurt them, to think about the campaign, the party, the cause. We cannot ask women who trust us with their futures while looking the other way when one of our own hurts them. That's the end there. I believe Jenny Rasico. Yeah. Two things can be true at the same time, by the way. If Grant Platner was a fucking ultra-Zionist, this story would have been caught and killed. Okay? Even if it did came out. K-File. Dang, he lost Mike from PA. Previously said Mossad was responsible for my first Reddit story. For the record, I believe the story to be 100% true, but do you think this will heighten the contradictions because our president was literally found liable for sexual assault and the media has let it go along with numerous other Republicans and Democrats? For some people, yes. For most people that we focus on here in our little bubble, you know, the commentariat, the Democratic Party consultants and whatnot, no, they just are using this as a great opportunity to fucking... the great opportunity to rip on the left populist flank, DSA, and numerous other people. They're fucking yelling at Abdul El-Sayed already. Reporting on Troy for Senate. Just got off the phone with former state Senate President, gubernatorial candidate Troy Jackson, a strong ally of Platner's with some of the same labor support that helped Platner's rise. Call sexual assault allegation very serious if Platner steps aside. He is very, very interested. This is a very serious allegation, but I haven't talked to Graham. He said, this is something I've never considered. But if Graham's stepping away, I am very, very interested, and I think I'm the best person to replace him. Jackson said he'd received dozens of calls and messages of support, which began while he was fishing with his father earlier this afternoon. Said he received 6 more messages over the course of our 3-minute phone call. This is very fast moving. He said, never seen anything like it. What if Platner ran on no more guilty than the president? Come on, man. I do wonder if there will be some Platner dead enders. The commentary and political Twitter response has been overwhelmingly pro dropout, but his Instagram and Facebook comments, which are much more normie, are still backing him. No, that's precisely the reason why it has to be a left populist that replaces him. Okay? That's precisely the reason why. Okay? Because if it's not like Graham Platner style candidate without the fucking red flags and the rape allegation, people are going to be like, fuck no, I'm not voting for anybody. It's over. And I need Democrats to understand that. A lot of people in Maine loved Graham Platner for that reason. Not because he was a Blackwater mercenary, not because he was a fucking soldier, not because of any of that shit. They loved what he represented. So you need to absolutely captivate the same populist energy. Okay. And if you think this is your opportunity, Democrats, to put forward Pills Mafia, Janet Mills, who is the fucking governor of the state, and she lost by insane margins to Graham Platner and had to drop out already in this primary. If you think that this is an opportunity to fucking slam in a cookie cutter neoliberal or even someone who is a moderately progressive candidate, you are wrong. We will lose the Senate majority. So either you're hopefully planning on losing Maine and moving on to the rest of the map, which is impossible, okay? No Pinos, no Dinos. You have to go with a real left populist. A real left populist, or we're going to fucking lose this race and we're going to lose the majority, okay? You got to have someone who is as anti-Israel as Platner is. You got to have someone who's pro-Medicare for all, Bernie back. That's why Troy Jackson seems like a perfect substitute. Because here's the situation. This is not a they go low, we go lower type situation. No, it's not. Listen to me. The Senate majority is profoundly important. Okay? It's profoundly important to make sure that there is some semblance, a crumb of accountability, a gumming up of the works of the Trump administration's bouldering towards fascism. Okay? It's unbelievably important. Unbelievably important, and you have to unseat Susan Collins. Susan Collins is a very weak candidate. This is the weakest she's ever been. She's Teflon Don every other cycle. Right now, this is the weakest she's ever been. Okay? There are going to be a lot of fucking people. There are going to be a lot of people out there who, judging by the Facebook comments, judging by the Instagram comments, not the Twitter ones, where we're all in line because all the fucking annoying bicoastal libs, myself included, are on Twitter. But judging by the anger that people feel, they are going to want a substitute that is similar without the rape allegations. That substitute seems to me to be Troy Jackson. If the DNC tries to put a hand-selected candidate from Chuck Schumer after the unbelievable victory that they received, the whopping that they got from Graham Platner, in spite of his fucking red flags, I'm telling you right now, There will be a lot of people that go, fuck this, I'm out. They are not going to make this calculation that you're making. They're not going to make this calculation that I'm making. Harm reduction narratives are not going to work to carry a hand-selected establishment Democrat across the finish line. There is far too much populist rage in Maine. So much so that they straight up voted for Graham Platner, regardless of the red flags ahead of time, okay? And they voted in large numbers. I am very worried. Anyway, this is Kamala 2.0 in Maine that has to be avoided. Yeah. Do you think the allegation has already depressed voter turnout that people might not vote for Troy Jackson? Troy Jackson is the best substitute. It's not even a guarantee then. Here's Troy Jackson's candidacy for
Please
governor.
welcome to the stage the next governor of the state of Maine, Troy Jackson.
I'll be all around in the dark. I'll be everywhere, wherever you look. Wherever there's a fight, so hungry people can eat, I'll be there. Wherever there's a cop beating up a guy, I'll be there. I'll be in the way guys yell when they're mad. And I'll be in the way kids laugh when they're hungry and they know supper's ready. And when our folks eat the stuff they raise and live in the houses they build, I'll be there.
We can't afford to wait any longer. Our time is now. We're not from the left. We're not from the right. We're from the bottom. And finally we're right.
3 hours ago, I had never heard of Troy Jackson, but I will die for him now. Does he have the juice? According to matchups, he does. They've already polled him on it. This is how a true DC pro gloats over her enemy's smoldering corpses by pretending not to gloat, only saddened and concerned about the fate of our country. We amateurs ain't shit. By the way, I will say, did you fill out your blue sky apology form yet? No. No, I did not. And I will not. Iran hit 2 commercial ships. Brace yourselves. Oh, shit. They're reeling from the Graham Platner news. Yeah, Moshtaba Khamenei said it's either Graham Platner or the Strait closes. On a Monday, too. Bold. Anyway. What a fucking day this has been, huh? Jesus Christ. Yeah, Mitch McConnell is likely dead, or at least brain dead, according to some reports. The Ayatollah. Ah, yes, the Ayatollah is famously rooting for Iraq war vets. Man, we're joking. Okay, that's a joke. I don't know if you know this, but I was joking. Anyway. Yeah, this is the main Senate polling. Jackson versus Collins matchup 48-43. Collins versus Platner. This is July 6th by Wedgwood. I don't know how reliable this fucking poll is, but Collins 50-50 with Pills Mafia, 50-46 with Platner, 48-43 with Jackson. Hannah Pingree, the Democratic nominee for governor, Maine, alluded to Jackson earlier, saying Platner's replacement should carry the same progressive energy. Pingree could be a key ally for Jackson at the nominating convention. The two previously cross-endorsed one another. There's a real brewing in Maine. The Dem establishment think that they can risk the Senate majority by not replacing Platner with an acceptable substitute. We'll be risking Mills being in that poll after losing the primary 3-1. The party ended an hour ago and he's still here. Mention Troy in the tweet. Yes, I already am retweeting Troy Jackson. Wait, what the fuck? Haley Stevens says, Abdul, are you having trouble stringing these two sentences together? I believe women. Graham Platner should drop out. Wait, what? That's what he's saying. That's literally Trump's biggest donor. What gives? She quote retweeted Abdul literally being like, yeah, Maine voters should not vote for a rapist. Like, what does that... What gives? Maddie Maroon. JC Polanco. Imagine being Jewish, knowing anti-Semitism is an all-time high, and watching the far left consult DSA. Bernie Sanders, many prominent Democrats gleefully push for a Senate candidate who's out willing through at least 100,000 punctures with an ink-filled needle on his chest to proclaim his love for the Nazis. How do you sleep at night? Shameful. Dog, you added... First of all, you're not Jewish. You added a Jewish guy. What is happening here? This is yet, I'm chalking this up. Another one. Okay? This is another instance of if you are Goyim, but also Zionist, you are actually more Jewish than a Jewish guy. Okay? Straight up. This is that moment where Josh Hawley was yelling at the guy from the liberal Zionist guy from Next, right? Was it Next? The Jewish advocacy group that was literally like, you shouldn't actually, deport people for anti-Semitism. And Josh Hawley was like, shut the fuck up. What the fuck do you know about combating anti-Semitism? Yeah, this is the classic Richie Torres implying Adam Friedland is a bad Jew moment. Can't wait to vote for AOC. Stay out of politics, man. Bro, they're calling Bernie a bad Jew. I know. I mean, dude, this is fucking insane. Fuck you, Bernie Sanders, you self-hating anti-Semitic cancer on society. Interesting to note that you failed to mention Graham Platner. Democrats, stop listening to Bernie and let's get behind Haley from Michigan. Wait, what? Wait. Whiplash. What the fuck does Haley Stevens have to do with this conversation? Wait, I'm sorry. What? He came in hot. He started off by being like, fuck you, Bernie. You're a bad Jew. Then turned around and was like, we should vote for Haley Stevens. Am I right, guys? It's like, how is this related? You know what, guys? We got to vote for Rahm Emanuel in 2028. Am I right? It's like, what? We got to vote for Gavin Newsom in 2028. Come on. Who's with me? And it's like, who's with you? Where the fuck did that come from? Where? That's a whole different sentence in a different zip code on a different state. What do you mean? You ain't slick Fred Gutenberg? What the fuck? Yeah, it's literally another 10 billion to Israel. Yeah, he was just like, guys, I've seen enough. Nixon 5, give another 10 billion to Israel right now. Right now. It's time. I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying. But we're all thinking it, right? Please, logs. I'm a moral dilemma. What? I'm not reading that. Twitter liberals got their scripts so damn fast. L-side like Platner's another one. Leftists are ignoring the red flags. What are the red flags? No one ever mentions the red flags. With Abdul, they just say red flag, right? With Graham Platner, there was all these little things needling, and big ones too, that seemingly Mainers didn't give a shit about, like this fucking Totenkopf tattoo, right? Or his Blackwater stint. But like, what are his red flags? It's not a red flag, it's a brown flag, okay? It's the fact that he's brown. Just say it. Just be like, we can't have an Islamist, fundamentalist, Muslim terrorist, ISIS supporter run for Senate because you feel that way, okay? It's a red flag for you. That's crazy. The white guy turned out to be so bad, so we definitely shouldn't vote for Abdul al-Sayed. Yeah. Yeah. He worked for Bill Clinton is crazy. By the way, that guy calling Bernie a Jewish descendant of Holocaust survivors and victims, a cancer on society while accusing him of anti-Semitism is insane. I know. I mean, we saw this with Brad Lander. Okay? We saw this with Brad Lander. Brad Lander defeated a candidate that was pro-Israel, right? Dan Goldman was pro-Israel. Brad Lander defeated Dan Goldman in a very Jewish district. Brad Lander was also very critical of Israel and said certain things about Israel that I've never heard from someone who, self-identifies a liberal Zionist or Zionist in any capacity, that Israel is an occupation, it's an apartheid, that it's doing a genocide, right? And that was enough for them. They just wrote out the fact that Brad fucking Lander, who has been Jewish his whole life, okay, that was enough for prominent Jewish people and even Christians who are pro-Israel to write out his Judaism like that. It evaporated out of him. Like, it's like that one comic from that one reactionary guy. Remember where it's like, if you don't vote for me, you ain't blackjack. And then this black girl goes, no. And then she turns white. Like, that's what they did to Brad Lander. Overnight, they were like, it's over. This is the most anti-Semitic attack that has ever existed. Now, not just Brad Lander, but all the Jewish people that voted for Brad Lander in this district. Pro-Israel non-Jews saying things like these scheming, cunning, wily parasites are a cancer on our society about anti-Zionist Jews. Yeah, they're like the perfidious anti-Zionist Jews. You just add anti-Zionist in there and everyone's like, yeah, it's fine. He can say it. Oh, okay, got it. You can just literally do protocols as long as you say they're bad Jews because they're anti-Israel, then it's fine. It's unbelievable. It's insane. That's not what Brad Lander said about Israel. Stop lying. Yes, it is. Brad Lander has said all three of those words. Okay. What is this? What? Oh, shit. I accidentally fucking modded this guy. Jesus Christ. Thank God we timed him out at the same time. I think I modded him. Did I mod him? Oh, he was just saying, get it right. Israel's committed a genocide. New mod alert. No, we're not modding him. He was just doing the Brad Lander accent. Mod me? No. No pog. I'm hitting the red sword. Shake me? Okay, you can get shaked. You can get shook. The Black Panthers would hate Hasan Piker. They consider him a left social democrat ideologically, but they would still consider him an ally and collab with him. They work with all types of people. Where is this? Why am I getting this? Why would they hate him? He's anti-black. And then even in the defense, they're like, they would also hate you, lol. What do you mean would also? Why would the Black Panthers hate me? Bro, you're getting called a Kautskyite? Yeah. What the fuck is going on? This is a good time to say I told you so about Platner. If you don't have solidarity with us in the global south, you will keep getting let down by politicians. Yeah. Yeah. Graham Platner being outed as a rapist is because he wasn't. What's so funny? Come on, man. Is this a bit? No, it's not. It's real. This is a real take from people. It's just the truth. It speaks of his character to kill brown children in our neighborhoods. Okay. In other news, Larkin outperforms Moskowitz in his poll. This is terrible. Jared Moskowitz's poll shows the risk of running a pro-ICE, pro-Israel, pro-Doge corporate Democrat versus the GOP. Moskowitz's own poll has him +1 over Moratis. We're +9. He's 10, +10 over Singer. We're +12. Haven't you always been in the critical support camp? Yes. But those guys don't like it when I say critical. Those guys don't think I'm sufficient in my critical support for actual anti-imperialist causes. They feel like it's insufficient. And when I say critical support, or not even critical support necessarily, but just like telling you exactly how it is, who's better in the bourgeois democratic election, okay? Like, who's better, Grant Platner or fucking Janet Mills, or Grant Platner or Susan Collins? That's enough. That's enough for them to be like, you love him. You've loved him your whole life. You've said he's the best person that's ever run for office. Which is true. I have said that. That's what I've said. And I've also said he's the president of the DSA. I do like Daria Lisa and some other candidates you push for, but you were yelling at us for hours for attacking him. Yes, of course I was. Because the extent did not begin and end at Grant Platner has a lot of red flags and yet Mainers are still voting for him, or that he is obviously a better alternative to fucking ultra-Zionists like Susan Collins or fucking Janet Mills. It was, you like Grant Platner, you love Grant Platner, you want Grant Platner to be your dad, you want Grant Platner to be the president, you want Grant Platner to continue murdering children in the global south as he did every day, and he enjoys that. That's his favorite activity. Okay? Now you're trying to pretend it didn't happen? I mean, there are long and tireless hours of this conversation, of these conversations that I've had. Countless hours. Okay? I'm not pretending that it didn't happen. I'm owning what I said about Grant Platner. You just don't like it because you had only one attitude about this, which was he should drop out of the race, which happened to be Neera Tanden's position as well. You know? Whatever, dude. I still appreciate your commentary, but I hope you learned something from this. I know. I'm going to exclusively run Larishite and ML candidates going forward. Thank you. My problem. That's my problem. Your ops are also his ops. Something is weird here. No, it doesn't matter. You have to declare war on the military for that chatter? Yes. They will sincerely advance that, and then they'll turn around and be like, oh, you're just exaggerating. You're strawmanning my position. It's like, no, there was plenty of people who said, there were plenty of people who have said, like, if you're a veteran in any way, shape, or form, you're a fucking child killer. The allegations against Grant Platner are so disturbing to the point where Susan Collins will support him for Scottish justice. You were the first to call out his tattoo. People seem to forget that. It doesn't matter. Hey, Hasan, do you think this just proves to walk like a chud, think like a woke? Maybe if it looks like a chud, it's a chud, even if it thinks like a woke. What do you think? No. The major difference here is someone's experience in the military, for my assessment, does not disqualify them. Depends on who they are as a person now. Okay? Someone doing rape, on the other hand, does disqualify them. Okay? That's it. Unless there were also credible allegations that he had conducted himself a certain way. Not like fucking him posturing on Reddit or whatever. Like, if there were any accusations of the sort of his service, his experience in service, just like the accusations that we've seen that are credible today of him doing a rape, that would be disqualifying. That's it. How would there be accusations that victims are as dead as a part of the military? I mean, it's a ridiculous question. I'm not talking about like the victims of imperialism that are going to rise from the dead. I'm talking about like, what's that famous case of the one guy who was like a fucking sniper and his own brigade literally had to call it in. And then Trump actually pardoned him. Not Chris Kyle. But Chris Kyle is another great example. Chris Kyle was considered a hero. I'm talking about Eddie Gallagher. Thank you. But Chris Kyle was seen as a hero, but many people knew the extent of his inhumanity in service. As a matter of fact, ironically enough, you know who also fucking called him out? Motherfucking Graham Platner. Probably not the best time to mention this. People will be mad at you. People will be mad you didn't any positive coverage of Platner at this point, and anger at a rapist almost getting power is valid, but hoisting all the blame onto you when you demonstrably kept them at arm's length is disingenuous. You didn't ban Platner skeptics or call them crazy. You banned troop exploders. Yes, I did ban a good deal of troop exploders. Because that's, again, a position that I do not take, and I think it's fucking ridiculous. I disagree with it on moral grounds, and I also disagree with it in general. And you can't say that that makes me insufficient in my anti-imperialism or my critical support for anti-imperialist groups, especially considering that there is not a single other person in mainstream media that is unironically defending any kind of resistance movement. Any kind. Ronald Brownstein and Bloomberg take on Platner. The far left activists who recruited Platner were so determined to find a blue-collar outsider that by their own admission, they performed only the most rudimentary due diligence on potential problems in the background. Platner's national backers became too focused on proving that their model of how to win elections, blast force economic populism delivered by outsiders, was the right path. They forgot that they were asking voters to endorse not a theory, but an actual human being. Schumer and DSCC failed by clearing the field for Governor Janet Mills. On paper, she had strengths. In practice, she was a dismal candidate. By propping up Mills, the Democratic establishment precluded the emergence of any organic alternative to Platner. Platner deserves plenty to blame, too, for repeatedly assuring supporters that no more damaging... It's weirdly a fucking good take from Ronald Brownstein. I mean, it's 100%. I mean, the far left activists who recruited Platner is a little bit aggressive, but yes, it's clear that there wasn't due diligence. I mean, what are we talking about? It was clear from the jump when the fucking Totenkopf tattoo came out. This is random, but I just saw it. This is Bernie's most recent post, and it was posted 5 minutes after Graham's response video was posted on Twitter. Uh-oh. Do you think Bernie really loves Graham Platner or something? Like, what the fuck's going on? I mean, he saw a lot of Joe Biden and Graham Platner. He don't got internet. He don't got internet. Not everyone has a racism PhD. I mean, first of all, you should have a racism PhD if you're vetting a candidate. It seems possible that background checks would not have cleared this. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the tattoo. That is a fucking blaring alarm. That's a crisis. It's not like he didn't post it. He posted it on his Instagram. Whether he thinks that wasn't a fucking Nazi tattoo or not doesn't matter. Anyone, if I had seen a photo of him shirtless and someone were to come to me and be like, hey, can you look at this guy's Instagram profile? And I happen to scroll past it, I'd be like, what the fuck are you guys doing? The tattoo proved that they didn't do sufficient background. Bro, just have a nuanced opinion? Wait, what do you mean? On what? There's definitely levels to his history in the military, though, don't you think? I have two opinions on this. My own personal opinion and my opinion as an analyst, okay? If you are asking me my own personal opinion, I don't think across the board any veteran is irredeemable, if that's the question. But if the question is for tours and Blackwater, yes, that is a glaringly obvious red flag, as I have brought up before. But if you're asking me my position as an analyst, as a commentator, as someone who understands the average American, or at least tries to understand the median voter's mindset, I have repeatedly explained to you over and over again that the troop exploder stuff is just like poison, regardless. Okay, it's completely unacceptable. But besides that, most people don't give a shit that he was a machine gunner. Most people do not give a shit that he was even in Blackwater. And they proved that they didn't give a shit about that. It turns out they went beyond not giving a shit, even by my estimations, because I thought the Nazi tattoo would be, a fairly large red flag from the perspective of the average voter. They didn't care at all. Try to have a nuanced position level impossible. Is this not a nuanced position? Isn't his wife's family Jewish? Yes. But again, what his wife's Jewish family saw when they saw the tattoo versus what a vetter would see when they saw the tattoo are two entirely different realities. The only point I'm making is that is such a whopping and alarming red flag. I'm actually shocked that he actually withstood that. Yeah, vetting wasn't the issue here. It's almost the opposite. Finding these kind of outsider candidates a deliberately high-risk pursuit because, as Dan Moraff told the Journal, they weren't raised in a vat to become elected officials. I agree, but vetting still was the issue here. I don't know why people don't see what I'm seeing or don't understand what I'm saying, okay? It doesn't matter if none of you guys knew. Clearly, there were plenty of people who didn't know what a Totenkopf tattoo is. I'm not one of those people. But the reason why I'm saying that is because the person who's supposed to be vetting this person is supposed to be that person, is supposed to be a guy who knows those things. That's it. That's my point. Would you support a former IDF gringo soldier that participated in the Gaza genocide to run for office in the U.S. as long as they had the same policies as Platner? Great question. No, because in order for them to have the same policies as Platner, they would have to be literally anti-Israel. And there is no guy who participated in the Gaza genocide that are anti-Israel, that say it's an occupation, that say it's an apartheid, that want to embargo Israel. Okay? That's insane. That's an absurd hypothetical, and that's the reason. But if he reformed, yeah, in fucking 25 years, maybe. In 25 years... perhaps that would mean a lot of atonement, don't you think? Again, stupid question, especially because I have had IDF veterans who are anti-Zionist on this fucking broadcast. I've interviewed them. I've relied on their work. Okay? Some of the most important. See, look, you're moving the goalpost. Okay? You're moving the fucking goalpost. You asked me a question about IDF veterans, and I'm going to give you an answer about IDF veterans. Okay? Some of the most important work that has come out of the Israeli new historians were conducted by IDF veterans, former IDF veterans, okay, who are prominent anti-Zionists. I know you don't care. But if you're testing my consistency here, I've always been consistent on this position. Avi Shleim served in the IDF, is a prominent anti-Zionist, and one of the Israeli new historians. Okay? His work was very important in uncovering the synagogue bombings that took place in Iraq. Ilan Pappé, foremost anti-Zionist Israeli academic. He also served in the IDF. Ofer Kassif served in the IDF, became a conscientious objector, is in the Israeli Knesset. Ofer Kassif is also an anti-Zionist. Okay? So no. My position on this is like, oh, if you've served in the IDF or you've served in the American military, you're an irredeemable monster. Gideon Levy, another anti-Zionist who also served in the IDF. Okay? I don't have the idea that like all IDF veterans or all American veterans are irredeemable monsters are fucking ridiculous. Okay? No one is irredeemable. So killing Palestinians is bad, but serving 4 tours and murdering Iraqis is fine. Okay. Now I am beginning to believe that a lot of you guys are actually not American because there's no, you can't grasp the English language, I think. Maybe you are not American after all. I used to believe that half of these people were from like Iowa. They were like Iowa Maoist third worlders LARPing. But now I sincerely believe that English might be your second language because you were refusing to hear the words that are coming out of my mouth. Okay? That's a whole different sentence that you just came up with. And then this is how we go down the spiral of Hasan defends Grant Platner for hours because the conversation does not stay with Grant Platner. It turns into why don't you think all troops are baby exploiters and child murderers who are rapacious monsters that are bloodthirsty and irredeemable? Yes, on principle, I will never fucking have that attitude. There are plenty of veterans in this community and plenty of anti-war veterans in this community, anti-imperialist veterans in this community, and I welcome them here. And this is a place where they can feel safe. I don't give a shit if you turn around and say that's unacceptable. This is a consistently held, principled position that I've had from day one. Okay? I care not about what you have done. I care about how you atone for what you have done. Who you are now matters to me most. I love you, Hasan. I don't think all vets are evil, but this dude was us from the jump. I mean, yes, there was a lot of red flags. I agree. Number. What the fuck? DUI Bert? There's a Paul Pelosi Bert? There's a real truth here. As the left grows into power, it does have to shed the ragtag YOLO mentality that led the planet. But this is a wild thing to say when the single most politically impactful scandal of the 21st century came from an establishment Dem and created Trump. Yes. Wait, Turby Durden? Chud Bert? That's Judge Jeanine Perot's husband? What happens if the Rays if he drops out and does Mills comes back? So if it's Pills Mafia to the bitter end, I think the Senate majority chances are completely fucked. There will be plenty of hanger-ons like Platner dead enders. There will probably be. I'm trying to get you guys to be comfortable with this, but if there isn't like an exchange of power, okay, if there isn't an exchange like a handoff from Platner, given the momentum that he had. Our perspective on Platner aside, right? If there isn't an actual like exchange of power between Platner and whoever comes next, whoever can carry that fucking populist rage and that populist momentum, it's over. Okay? You have to find literally an identical candidate that doesn't have rape allegations, credible rape allegations. Lucky for us, there is a candidate that is very similar. But of course, predictably, Democrats have immediately moved on to going on Fox News to shit on that guy. Because for them, this was not about winning the Senate. It was about winning the argument.
Doug, how do you get your party to shed some of these crazy ideas, anti-Israel, anti-American candidates, and get back to the center, as you say?
I think the best way is the Democratic Executive Committee has a procedure, assuming Platner steps down by July 13th, in those 2 weeks, to have a debate across the state of Maine with robust candidate forums and hopefully pick someone, as you mentioned, like Janet Mills or like Jared Golden, the congressman, or Nirav Shah, who ran unsuccessfully for governor. So we have somebody in a general election with a big turnout who has a chance to compete fairly. We are for democracy.
Yeah, and that candidate is the governor of the state that fucking lost to the guy with a totem cough tattoo. Yeah. Let's do it. Kamala 2.0. Kamala and Hillary Rodham Clinton 2.0 in Michigan with Haley Stevens. And then Kamala 2.0 in Maine as well. Fuck it, dude. Let's just keep fucking losing. Fuck it. Let's let these rapist, pedophilic Jeffrey Epstein defenders run the country in perpetuity. Fuck it. That's where we're at. That's what these guys are basically saying. They're like, I don't give a shit. Fuck it. My life is fine. I'm getting the tax cuts. I'm white. I'm not going to get fucking deported. Who gives a shit if there's concentration camps? That's literally what they're saying. It's unbelievable.
To your point,
certainly am. I'm against the socialists, and the best way to prove that moderate mainstream Democrats have a future is to nominate someone here, whether it be man or woman, and have them compete with a very strong candidate in Susan Collins. I'm for that. Hopefully your viewers and the electorate will embrace that.
Do you think they're dumb enough to appoint Mills or a Mills acolyte? Yes. That's what they're fucking salivating over. They're going to use this as an opportunity to be like, Bernie sucks. He was wrong all the time. He's never been right. And that we can't let a left populist win this, take over the mantle from Platner. We have to run Kamala Harris in every seat, even though she just lost in all of the battleground states. Bernie has to say something crazy he hasn't already. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with Bernard. Look at this. I'm surprised he still gives a damn about anything, to be honest. They're explaining Bumble to him. Yeah, look. All I'm saying is, call me Taliban the way I ride that Toyota HasanAbi. Okay, you guys are already quick. We want Action Jackson. Can an economic populist win Maine's governor race? Too many Zohran Mamdani and Troy Jackson couldn't. The many Zohran Mamdani and Troy Jackson couldn't look more different. But both are a part of the same political project. The renewal of class politics has caught fire in cities across America, and now it's time to set rural America ablaze. All right, people are saying it. Troy the Trojan Horse Jackson. It's time for the real Maine Senate candidate to rise from the fall of Platner. We will carry the flame. What tattoos does Troy have? I can't believe we're about to do Coconut Summer again, but for this guy. USA losing to Belgium as everyone expected. Yeah, it made the situation far worse that Donald Trump did the thing that he did, which, annoyed the shit out of people. And on top of that, we fucking ended up losing. Anyway, if you are on Troy Jackson's team, I am here. I am available. I did not come to Maine for Grand Platner. So the HasanAbi bump did not work for Grand Platner, but for Troy Jackson, it might. Just saying. Deploy Troy.